on the road for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book, The Road to Morocco, no other than Mr. Mark Jamilkowski.
Thanks for having me
Welcome.
on, Daniel. I appreciate it.
Welcome to Book 101,
It's
Mr.
a
Mark.
pleasure to be here with you today.
Yes, and welcome to Book 101, Mr. Mark. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. I am a resident in New York City. I am mostly on a day job. I run a healthcare startup. Um, I kind of fell into the whole idea of being an author quite by accident. But here I live in New York with my wife. My son is now grown up and left, so it's just the two of us. Um, Outside of running the healthcare startup and being here in New York, I love going to jazz. I love to cook. I love to read other people's books, and especially around history and historical fiction type novels. And I'm a bit of a closet onophile. I love my wine. You know,
Yes,
that's a
Mr.
little bit about me.
Yes, Mr. Mark. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. So let's talk about the general comprehension of the road to Morocco. What is the road to Morocco about, and what is the central themes does it explore?
Yeah, for the most part, the road to Moresco is about a mother and her daughter. And it follows their life kind of from the very early 1900s all the way through 2020-ish. Their trials and tribulations, their struggles, and ultimately their persistence and perseverance that allows them to survive, to not just survive, but to thrive and to achieve some of their life objectives. The story is based on real people. So there's a fair amount of biography associated with these two characters. And the world events that they live through, obviously, are anchored in a lot of the reality too. So the objective then in telling the story is to make this time period very tangible for people who did not live through it, but as well as get the reader to understand what it took to survive and thrive. I think that at the end of it, the inspiration comes from just how resilient these two women were, how strong they were, and what they accomplished despite society basically being completely against them.
Mr. Mark, how does the setting of Morocco influence the story's progression?
It starts off in Italy, and I think that's critically important. Spent a fair amount of time actually in the book setting the ground there, where the nationalism and the fascism that developed from that kind of emerged coming into World War II, right out of World War One, and right out of some of the political movements in the late 1800s Italy. That setting kind of pervades the environment that these women start the story in. As a result of that confining and very restrictive environment, you right away you get a sense for the societal tension and their own frustrations with what is being expected of them versus what they want to do. It sort of sets the tone for the rest of it, for the rest of the book.
How does the book title reflect in its themes and storyline?
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. When I was writing the book, I was telling more of the story, but as I started getting into more of the nuances of it, I realized that what this was really doing is discussing and telling the story not just of these two women, but of the journey they took through life. Moresco is an actual town in Italy. It's in the La Marche region. It's on the eastern seaboard, about in the middle of the boot, if you will. It's and being a literal place, the road to Moresco then as a title kind of infers not just the journey that these two characters took, but the physical journey one could take to actually go on the roads to see the town of Moresco, where she was from and where this whole story originates. It's also the personal journey. It's an allegory for the personal journey the reader will take in going through the story and picking up on the life lessons and the philosophies that emerge, such that at the end of the story, my objective and my hope is that a reader of this story will come away with a sense of home no matter where they started. And that home is in sort of, again, philosophically and allegorically, the town of Moresco, right? Whatever you want it, wherever that is, wherever your heart is, Moresco.
Morasco indeed. Let's talk about the character and analysis. What are the key characteristics of the main character?
So I think there are two main characters. First, we start with Maria Luisa Moresco, the mother, and she is a child of this fascist Italy, World War II. That's when she's an adult, and the struggles that she has, and her very self-determined kind of perspective of what she wants to be, what she wants to do with her life, is a driving force for her throughout her entire life, and especially for the story. The fact that she was so adamant about doing what she envisioned for herself versus what other people wanted her to do. She didn't want to be just a mother or pigeonholed to doing one specific thing. She definitely wanted to have a much broader experience with life, especially with her pursuit of being a concert pianist. Uh, in as much as she has that drive and perseverance and to really go after what she wants, in the aftermath of that, right? In the aftermath of that is the fact that her daughter suffered from the lack of attention because the mother's first love was always becoming a concert pianist. That's what she wanted to be. So the formation of that daughter then is rooted in this resentment and um, sort of a lacking environment where the nurturing really wasn't being done by the mother, but rather by nannies. The development then of the daughter reflects this gap, if you will, in her emotional development that pervades her entire life. And then that's the second half of the story. That's as the handoff goes from the mother to the daughter, and the daughter achieves womanhood and has her own children and gets married and emigrates to the United States. We follow her. We follow her and her story and her family through that time period. So the key elements there of those characters and kind of who they need to be in their moment, in the societal elements, is critical to their survival and their success. It's one of the reasons why I
Interesting.
actually tell people. I think, yeah, good.
Interesting indeed, Mister. And is there a clear antagonist in the story? If so, who and why?
Um, I guess the antagonists, for all intents and purposes, is actually the elements of history that they have to interact with: war, rape, violence, riots, uh, the struggle of emigrating to a new country, the variety of PTSD syndromes with the new husband and the GI that she married and came to the United States with. So there's a variety of those types of elements on the outside of these two characters, which are constantly beating down on them, uh, challenging them, forcing them to take a different tack, a different turn. Those are what I draw out as being sort of the protagonists, if you will, to their development and ultimately the arc of the story.
Indeed. One of the greatest story, Mr. Mark. How do the relationships between characters shape the narrative?
The mother is always seeking for that next element, which is going to elevate her career. It's going to open up an opportunity. She's constantly looking for the door opener, if you will, for that professional development, whether inside herself, permitting herself to be that professional, or really having the connections in the music industry, which was dominated by men, to kind of have that opportunity itself. Later, the mother then transfers a lot of her frustrations onto the daughter. And I think that along the same line, the daughter has her own frustrations, rebelling against her mother, rebelling against society, not really certain where she's going, and her own search then is to find that love that she never really felt she had as a child, without really being able to necessarily connect those dots or to self-diagnose herself. Ultimately, through the course of her actions, you can clearly look back on and see this is the kind of character development that needs to be drawn out as the story progresses. It's not lighthearted necessarily, but there are moments, but it is an important journey for them to take ultimately.
Interesting journey indeed, Mr. Mark. And thank you for sharing to the world. Let's talk about the writing style and structure. How how is your writing
Mhm.
style contribute to the story tone?
People have told me that my writing style reminds them of other people, and I'm flattered first off that they would even consider me my writing along those lines. But I tell a story, and in as much as I'm telling a story like I would if we were having a couple of drinks next to a fireplace, the kind of idea of just bringing somebody into the environment, getting the elements of the room, the shade and the lighting and the smells, and just trying to make sure that is a completely immersive environment in every scene. That's my effort that I make purposely as a writer, to try to make sure that the reader understands place and they themselves feel like they are standing there, whether it is feeling the breeze in a warm summer afternoon. What does the air feel like? And then just, making sure that environment is understood, and what are the smells, and what are you hearing? I'd really try to make sure that all the sensory elements are developed in the storytelling, so that the reader feels that time and place. One of the other things I also try to do is I'm very mindful of how I'm structuring my paragraphs. Word count per line, syllables per word, that kind of thing. I think it's important. I have a little bit of a music background. I sing in a choir. I used to play in a jazz band. So the idea of musicality in word structure is important to me as well. I try to make sure and incorporate some element of that pacing and rhythm in my writing as well. So when things are heating up and there's a little bit of action, we start shortening the sentences. We start reducing the number of syllables per line. We start getting into a faster cadence, if you will, that allows the reader to kind of feel a quickening pace, whether they're seeing it in their reading or whether they're feeling in their body. I want them to experience this heightened tension in that way. So these are the kinds of things that I focus on as I'm trying to develop the story and convey my story to the reader.
Mr. Mark, is the story told in a linear fashion or does it use flashbacks?
Yeah, the story very much marches with history, so it's very linear in that regard. You start in one place and you just kind of follow the story, and the markings of the story, of the landmarks, if you will, of the story, are very much those real life elements that happened in historical context. And so one definitely leads to the other. You almost have to do that to fully understand how a sort of the later historical context and social context and societal context, political context was developed, and where did it come from? That was actually one of the things I ended up researching a tremendous amount on. I kept asking, well, how do we get here? Why were people like that? Why did they think that? Peel it back the onion one more layer. You sort of keep going further back. At some point, I said, okay, I've gone far enough.
Awesome then. So what will be your short-term and long-term goals in writing, Mr. Mark?
I was kind of surprised the feedback and the warmth and acceptance of this story. I wrote this more as an act of passion, something that was very close to me. There's a little bit of autobiography baked into this story. Um, and it opened a door for me a little bit because I found that I really enjoyed the creative aspect of writing and publishing and being part of this community. Um, so I'm in the process right now of editing my second book, um, and we'll see how that goes. It's the second book is sort of an extent. It's not a follow-on. It's not like a sequel or a prequel. It's something else completely different. Um, but in terms of short-term goals, let's get that second book published. Long-term goals, who knows? Maybe it's in my retirement. I'll be sitting and banging out books and being an author. Or being getting a screenplay or something like that. Who knows? But dreams can go big in, in that regard. Who
Dream
knows?
big.
I leave it
Dream
open. I don't have any
big.
specific goals. Yeah, dream big.
Yes, indeed. Dream big,
Right.
people. You will not pay for it. And good luck to your goals, Mr. Mark, and hoping for more and more and more
Thank you.
empowering books like this to come. So, what would be your advice for those people out there want to write their own novel or books or whatever they want to write?
Mm. You know, there are a lot of different camps when it comes to this, the how to get started kind of idea. Um, there are college courses and and online courses, of course, and all kinds of seminars you can go to quote unquote learn how to write. If not coming from that environment, not having gone to school for the literary arts or literature, or having a deep background in school with regard to all things related to storytelling and book writing. Um, the easiest way to get started is literally to sit down and start writing. Stream of consciousness is fine. Just let it flow. Um, Make an outline if that helps you keep yourself organized. Keep a journal with crazy ideas that come to mind, and then just try to string it all together, make it work for you. Um, the process of finding an editor is a little easier in today's environment because indie publishing has become such a cottage industry. There's a lot of support to that aspect now. Um, I think that there are a lot of tools out there that can help people edit a story and create a more structured arc to the storyline. It's a learning process. You know, the expectation is not that you're going to write the next Star Wars type of movie, but rather the idea is you're going to get your foot in the door. You're going to start, right. You start with baby steps. I would, in that regard, Daniel, I would say my biggest advice to first time authors is to pick your genre first and foremost. Understand what resonates with you intellectually and emotionally, right? Is it vampire stories, or is it romance? Is it history? For me, historical fiction, it ties together my brain for the research and my heart for telling the story.
Well,
But
thank
once
you
you
for
pick
your
your
advice.
genre, once you pick your
Yes.
genre, wait, once you pick your genre, though, just one more thing. Once you pick your genre, you have to be compassionate with yourself. You can't expect
Yes.
to just run out there and do fantastic thing. You have to be compassionate, and you have to take it slow, and you have to understand there's going to be a lot of learning along the way, but to enjoy that journey. And just that's it. Just enjoy, be compassionate, and enjoy the journey.
Enjoy the journey of writing, people, and stop procrastinating. If you have the passion to write, and share to the world, just like Mr. Mark. And what perspective is the book written from, and how does it affect the reader's understanding?
The book is written as a narrative, um, sort of a third person storytelling, like a casual observer who would have been sitting there in the eternal timeline watching all these things happen, kind of idea. Um, I didn't tell it from the first person on purpose. There really wasn't a single first person that could carry the narrative all the way through the story, because there are elements that are missing from that first person experience that are happening that were important for the various character interactions. Um, I think the reader's experience in going through it is enhanced by the narrative form that I take, and at least I hope it is. Again, I kind of look towards the feedback I've been getting and the awards I've been graced with, and whatnot, that kind of say, yeah, you're onto something here, and that's what's given me the kind of the courage to go to write the second one, right? Um, I think the narrative style is best suited for this type of storytelling, you know, and so that's the kind of experience I hope the readers have.
Mr. Mark, tell us the awards that you received from this book.
Yeah, there's been several of them. The Golden Quill, the Book Excellence Award. I got the Golden Book Award from the Literary Guild. It's just been kind of overwhelming. I didn't, like I said, I wrote this more as a work of passion. I didn't really expect much to come from it. Um, so the fact that the book was recognized and was awarded these uh, excellent awards. It was very hard. It was very touching. You know, I was very grateful for that. Um, one of the things that also I just kind of point out that um, indie authors like me who are not represented by a major publishing house, you know, we don't get this massive marketing budget. It's all on us to kind of find the avenues and find the people to talk to and whatnot. Um, you know, there's nobody publishing 10,000 copies of our book and dropping them on every desk of every editor at every major newspaper across the country to try to get them to read the book and write a review in their newspapers, and there's nobody booking us on talk shows or anything like that. So it's very difficult to establish a bestseller type of category or label when you're an indie author. Um, but like I said, I had very low expectations, and I've been tickled pink and very grateful for the recognition the book has received. So that's been very heartening and supportive.
Congratulations, Mr. Mark. Hoping for more and more award-winning pieces like this to come. So before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, and its fifth season, people, fifth season. We have Alessandro, one of the specialty chef in one of the five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our latest episode. We are reading our letter senders all over the world. So please do listen Food 101 wherever you listen your podcast. So Mr. Mark, what makes the road to Morasco a compelling and memorable read?
I think people will be surprised at how it touches them. They may be reading the story of these two women and as they're going through life, but I think there's a lot of us in their lives as well. And as a result, my hope is that a reader of the book will find a bit of themselves in these stories and will come away with a touching experience that they didn't expect.
Mr. Mark Jamilkowski, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. And we are hoping for more and more and more award winning books to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book?
Absolutely. It's on Amazon in paperback and hardcover. So, audiobook as well. Kindle is free. Download today.
Yes, people, I support Mr. Mark because if you support him, as I said, more and more and more empowering and award winning fees to come. So, Mr. Mark, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me on your show today, Daniel. Really appreciate it. Great time.
More to come, people. See you soon.